Hey now, record lovers, I've got some records to share with you. A whole bunch of records to share with you. Recently, I went on a trip to Japan with my wife. We spent Thanksgiving in Tokyo and Osaka. Instead of turkey and stuffing, we did noodles and sushi. You can see now it's Christmas time, and I'd love to share with you all the records that I came back with. About 25 pounds worth of records, or about 10 kilograms, according to our hotel scale. And so I've got quite a few, and I'd love to share with you the records that I got and where I got them, just in case you're planning a trip to Japan or you just want to know what the vibe's like. What kind of records would one pick up in Tokyo and maybe even a store in Osaka on a Japanese vacation? Share with you what I got during my vacation. And if we haven't met before, my name's Jerry. I unbox a lot of records on this channel, but mostly Grateful Dead and Grateful Dead related records. So Jerry Garcia Band, some Bob Weir, Dead and Company, Old and in the Way, you name it. Today's not just going to be Grateful Dead records, it's going to be all sorts of different records. But if you are interested in the type of content that I typically do in this channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's take a look at what I got at Tower Records. That's right, I said Tower Records. You might not have heard that name in a while. They still exist, but only in Japan. I think there's still a few locations, Tokyo and in a few other cities in Japan. And shortly after we landed at Haneda Airport, we checked into the hotel, and my wife and I went straight to Tower Records in Shibuya. Here's a photo of that Tower Records. And just a few hours after landing, we were already shopping for records. And we knew that we loved this Tower Records from a previous trip that we had taken to Japan. And we already had a list of stuff that we were looking for. And the top of that list were some Japanese artists that we were trying to pick up, some Japanese jazz fusion records for the most part. My wife very quickly found a copy of Hiroshi Suzuki's Cat on the wall. I believe it was an original pressing, and it was quite expensive. If I'm remembering correctly, it was upwards of 500 bucks. It might have even been up into the thousands. It was really expensive for an original copy. And my wife saw that and she was a little bit disappointed at first, thinking, all right, the records that I want, they're gonna be a little bit out of our price range. But then she found a modern repressing of Hiroshi Suzuki's Cat. So I'll hold this up, there's the obi and everything, and you can see it's on very beautiful transparent yellow vinyl. And so we kind of broke the seal with that one, and very quickly after, across a few different end caps on the rock floor of this Tower Records, we found some other Japanese artists that we were looking for. My wife and I have recently been listening to a lot of Masayoshi Takanaka, and I was looking for this stranger one, the Rainbow Goblins, and this is a cool purple pressing. You can see no obi on this one, but it's got that little hype sticker, mastered at Abbey Road Studios. Really nice, really great sounding copy of Masayoshi Takanaka's The Rainbow Goblins. And if you don't know, this is kind of songs for a children's movie, I think, but I don't know if the children's movie ever got made. I'm not really up to speed on the lore behind this one, but interesting stuff, kind of off the beaten path children's music from guitar legend Masayoshi Takanaka. And speaking of Takanaka, my wife really wanted T-Wave. Again, modern repressing. I guess a lot of these classic records have been getting new pressings on high quality, heavyweight 180 gram vinyl, really cool colors. My wife, opening track from side one, Early Bird, my wife is a huge fan of this, and so am I. Really, really killer record. It's got the obi, very Japanese in its presentation. And that's not all. I was looking for a copy of Cassiopeia, this record, the race car on it. You see this a lot in almost every Japanese record haul video. I didn't have a copy. It's on cool clear orange vinyl, so had to pick it up. Now this one I'm probably gonna butcher. My wife picked it up. I don't know much about this one. Aichi Otaki. Again, don't know much about this one. This was one of my my wife's pickups, but cool record that we got at Tower Records. But one of my pickups, I'm a big Art Pepper fan, and I got this copy of Straight Life for pretty cheap. I think it was like $6 or $7. Cheap copy, clean copy, Art Pepper. I couldn't pass up this record, so of course I grabbed it. And this was the last record that I grabbed at Tower Records in Shibuya. And so after Tower Records, we ate some sushi, fell asleep. We were exhausted, jet lagged. But the next morning was our big Disc Union morning. I'm a huge fan of the Disc Union chain of record stores, and there are a bunch in Shinjuku. And so we were just hopping around all the Disc Unions in Shinjuku. In fact, they gave us a map. I'll show you the printed map that they gave us, but I'll put up a map on the screen of each of the individual stores that I picked up some records from, in case you're looking for specific stores in Shinjuku. But we started off at the Rock Record store, a few floors up in one of those multi-story buildings that they have in Shinjuku, full of shopping. My wife immediately picked up this 7-inch single, Can't Buy Me Love, the Beatles. Just really cool, to have a Japanese pressing of a single, especially a Beatles single, Western artists like that. And this is not a Japanese pressing, but my wife picked up this promo of Grateful Dead's Truckin', and of course the backside is Ripple. Truckin' and Ripple, I couldn't say no. I think this one was pretty pricey. I think I paid about $12 or $15. So by New York standards, I'm in New York, pretty affordable, but pretty expensive compared to many of the other 7 inches that they had at this Disc Union. And another thing that really quickly caught my eye while we were shopping in this store, one of the first things I picked up is this MoFi pressing, original master recording of Skull and Roses that was put out all the way back in 2012. I actually wasn't really familiar with this MoFi pressing. I'd seen some of the more recent, the Workman's Dead and the what's the other one? American Beauty. But yeah, I'm not familiar with a lot of these older Grateful Dead MoFi, older, it's 13 years old at this point, MoFis. I wasn't collecting audiophile records back in the early 20-teens, but I got this for a song, I think. I got it for a really good price. I think I paid about $60 or $70, sorry. I've been saving some of these receipts. I don't know if this will focus, the receipts of some of these records that I picked up, just as a memento and just as a reminder of how cheap some of these records are. I've been finding some really great deals while I was shopping for records in Tokyo. And my wife picked up a few records, Robert Palmer, Clues. I think she got this one for pretty cheap as well. We both are fans of Kid Creole and the Coconuts. I wasn't familiar with this record. This is In Praise of Older Women and Other Crimes, but I can't really pass up a cheap Kid Creole and the Coconuts record. They're just fun to put on when you have folks over, have friends over, good party records. Never have a bad time when we're spinning a Kid Creole record. And then my wife picked up Harry Nilsson's Nilsson Schmielsen. Again, this is filling some gaps in our record collection. American pressing, I believe, no obi, no signs of being a Japanese pressing, but high quality, clean copies of American records for a good price. I couldn't say no while we were in Tokyo. And then we walked around the corner, right, around the backside of that same building of that first Disc Union store was the Disc Union Jazz store, which I was a bit confused by the first time that I went. I walked into the first floor. There's a little bit of jazz on the first floor, and I was like, I don't know why they call it the Disc Union Jazz store. It's kind of everything store, not realizing that there's about 3 more floors upstairs. There's a Book Union, there's the real Disc Union Jazz store, and then I forget what the top floor is. I think it was dance music, but I skipped that one. But I went up a couple flights of stairs to the jazz store, and I picked up a few cool records. Cheap copy of Milestones by Miles Davis. Didn't have a copy of this. Again, not a Japanese, actually no, it is a Japanese pressing. Here we go on the back. And so Japanese pressing, but again, clean condition. I think it was about $10, filling some holes in my Miles Davis collection. I also picked up the Oscar Peterson Trio Night Train. Now this got a really high quality pressing. I believe it was last year. I believe it was 2024 that it got a really nice new pressing as part of I think it was the Verve by Request series, but don't quote me on that. This is not that higher quality new pressing. This is one of the least clean records from the haul that I picked up, but after putting it through my ultrasonic, it sounds fine. It's not, audiophile grade repressing that you're going to get for $40 these days. But I think, again, for about $10, maybe even less, was happy to pick up a copy of Night Train by the Oscar Peterson Trio. And then finally, another Japanese record, T-Square or The Square. Magic. And I wasn't familiar with this one, but I thought the cover was just so cool. To open it up, you can see actually the obi is on this side. To open it up, you lift up the skirt and it reveals sand dunes. And so you think you're getting a little peep show from this album sleeve, but just a little bit of an optical illusion when you lift up the shorts, skirt. I'm not sure which one it is, but again, some cool Japanese jazz fusion by T Square or The Square, depending on which record it is. They spell it a couple different ways. While I was upstairs, my wife was downstairs in that more kind of everything first floor Disc Union store, and she picked up this Squeeze record, Sweets from a Stranger. I'm not super deep into Squeeze. She's been looking for a copy of Cool for Cats for ages, but picked up this because she wasn't able to find Cool for Cats. We spun it the other day. Sounds great. Again, another really fun record. She also picked up, I believe this was at the same Disc Union, Country Oldies on the Air, Volume 4. Just a bunch of old country songs. I'm not super familiar with any of these artists. I think she got this one for a song. I don't think she paid very much. In fact, I've got the receipt. That's why I save these receipts. 980 yen, so about $6 for Country Oldies on the Air. Just another fun compilation record, something that you can just put on for me in the background. Maybe she's listening to it a little bit more intently, but another cool record. And the Disc Union fun continues. We walked a couple blocks this time to another fairly large Disc Union. I think this one was about 6 or 7 stories. I'll show where it is on Google Maps on the screen. This was mostly my wife picking up records actually at this multi-story Disc Union. There was a punk shop, an indie shop, 90s rock. I think this is the one that had the full prog rock, floor of prog rock. And so we popped around, just hopped into a few different floors. These are smaller stores, but more specialized stores. And my wife picked up some 2000s indie rock, Mira, as well as Rilo Kiley, The Execution of All Things. Great record. I used to have this on CD. Listened to this a lot back in the day. Frozen Link edition, limited edition of 3000 with a 7-inch. Again, American records, but available for not very much money. Nice to fill those gaps in the collection. And then finally, a pretty cool one, LCD Sound System Losing My Edge, 45 RPM single. Used to really love LCD Sound System. It's harder to love him these days. He seems like he's just a part of the American Express marketing machine with his annual residencies brought to you by Amex, but he's still cool. James Murphy, still cool. Still enjoy his music, even though he's making it harder and harder to enjoy his music these days by just being a part of a credit card marketing machine. But what are you gonna do? All of our heroes eventually start chasing those dollar signs. And then on the bottom floor, the entry-level floor of that Disc Union, that multi-story Disc Union, was actually a full video game music store, which, I've seen video game music sections in record stores before, but never a full video game music store. Poked around a little bit. I found some Christmas gifts for some friends. I'm not a huge gamer anymore these days, but I did play a lot of Legend of Zelda back in the day as a kid, so I got this 2 CD set with the little CD obi strip, but it's got selections from most Legend of Zelda games from their soundtracks, so all the way from Legend of Zelda and Adventures of Link through the SNES, GameCube, N64, and Wii era, and so it ends with Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes, and Skyward Sword, and so a selection of some Legend of Zelda music, which pretty cool. I don't know how many times I'm going to be spinning this one. It's a bit of a novelty, but I figured I wanted a little memento from that video game music store. And next up, I was pretty full of record shopping at that point. I was pretty satiated with all the records that we had picked up, and so everything after that was really bonus. We happened to go back to Shibuya, and after getting lunch in the Shibuya Park Mall, I said, well, why don't we just pop into the Disc Union in the basement of this mall. Last time we went there, it was a pretty underwhelming selection, but this time I found a couple cheap records that I'm really glad that we popped in to grab them. I was looking for, again, T-Square, The Square. This is a really cool record. It's got the track on it, and I can't remember the track right now. I'm looking for the English track listing, but it's all in Japanese on the obi up there. One of the tracks on here is actually the track that inspired the Super Mario Brothers theme song. Very heavily inspired by a track off of this T-Square record called Adventures. So cool record, got it for, I think, $5 or $6, really not that expensive. And then I picked up a $2 record of, let's see, Francois Glorieux, pardon my French, plays the Beatles Volume 2. Got the obi, it's Japanese pressing. You can see underneath the obi track listing in Japanese. I thought this would be cool. Piano covers of a bunch of Beatles songs. I like covers of Beatles songs. This one was a bit of a dud, but for $2, I took a gamble. Really cool album artwork, but the music is just, kind of lackluster in my opinion. But speaking of the Beatles, there is a really cool Beatles store in Shinjuku. Back into Shinjuku, we bounced back up from Shibuya to Shinjuku, near the top of the neighborhood, called Perfect Circle Beatles Store. And as the name implies, as it says on the tin, all they sell is Beatles records and then side projects. And so solo records, things Beatle related. Saw some Yoko Ono stuff in there. So anything that has a tie back to the Beatles, they're probably selling it. And they have a really cool collection of bootlegs. And so I wasn't really looking for, original mono US, UK pressings of any Beatles records. They have those and they fetch a pretty hefty sum of money. But I was really interested in some of the bootlegs, some of the stuff that you just can't find anywhere else, even if you've got the money to spend. One of those is the Beatles Complete Christmas Collection. And so this is a series of radio recordings and just other recordings, scraps on the cutting room floor of them playing Christmas songs and joking between Christmas songs. Not the best recording quality, as you can imagine, from the scraps of radio recordings pressed on bootleg vinyl by trademark of quality, but really cool, fun Christmas record to have. As we've been decorating the tree, I've been spinning this quite a few times. I'm glad my wife's not sick of it yet. And then another Beatles record, actually Beatles related record, is this cool Paul McCartney bootleg called Confidential Document. So it's mostly live recordings and a few outtakes. Lady Madonna, Honey Pie. My wife was really excited about the outtake of Honey Pie, version of One Hand Clapping from the movie. I actually went to go see that movie earlier this year in theaters. Really cool stuff. But cool Paul McCartney bootleg compilation of just stuff from the early to mid 70s. Again, been spinning this one a lot while decorating the tree as well. And so that was it for Tokyo. We made a quick side trip to Osaka as part of this vacation. I promise we weren't just record shopping this whole vacation. We crammed a lot of different shops into just a few neighborhoods. But while we were in Osaka, we were just happened to be walking past a disc union in Osaka, and I'll put that up on the screen as well, the Google Maps screenshot. And I wasn't really looking for much. I looked at my wife and I said, I promise you 5 minutes in and out, and then we'll get back to our sightseeing, to our day. But I got really lucky really quickly. First, with this Oscar Peterson trio, we get requests. And the reason I was excited to find this one, again, American pressing of this one, was because we went to a really cool jazz bar, a jazz kissa, called Bird 56 the night before. And they were playing this record amongst other records. They weren't just playing this one record all night, but we heard it and I was really enjoying it, really enjoying myself at this bar, and thinking to myself while we were there, I would love a copy of this. And I know, again, audiophile copy I think just came out or is just about to come out, so I could spend about $40-ish on a copy, but I found this for less than $10, I think less than 1,000 yen, maybe it was 1,000 yen, and I figured why not. Again, not the cleanest record in the world. You can even see the ring wear on the sleeve. The record itself needed to go through the ultrasonic cleaner. I actually think I went through the ultrasonic cleaner twice on this one. And it sounds fine. It sounds acceptable for the price that I paid, but just a cool memento of our time in Osaka. And then Finally, one more Grateful Dead record. Another memento from our time in Osaka, picked up at that same disc union. This is a Record Store Day record from, I think maybe 10 years ago at this point, maybe even more. Older Record Store Day, oh yeah, it says right there on the sticker, on the hype sticker, 2017. I'm glad previous owner left that hype sticker on. I like keeping those Record Store Day hype stickers. Older Record Store Day record, picked it up at Disc Union. I didn't have this in my collection. I think it goes for almost $100 here in the States. It was about half that in Japan. So I'm glad I didn't just cave and buy it on Discogs. It's nice to just find records like this in the wild. And with all the, collector culture in Japan, the enthusiast culture, especially around music and records, record collecting, you can find really great records like this. And like I said, for a really good price. I would say the record prices this time were even better than they were 2 years ago when I went. Unfortunately, the yen is quite weak right now, but fortunately for American shoppers who are looking to pick up a bunch of records, there's a slight discount on those records. And so that's part of the reason why we were quite liberal in how many we picked up. We were able to schlep all of these home on the airplane, no problem. I just checked one of my bags, and then my big Disc Union tote bag that we picked up while we were there served as my carry-on for the flight home. No problem getting these back home. And so we've been really enjoying just having quite a few new records to add to our collection and to listen to this December, and I'm sure through the rest of the winter as well and onwards. And so that's my experience with record shopping in Japan. Had a really great time on this trip. Really knew where to look from our previous trip, and we're able to kind of keep building on that knowledge of where to go. This isn't an exhaustive list of the best record stores in all of Japan. Japan's a big country. Tokyo's a really big city. I'm sure others will find record stores that are better for their interests, but for the type of trip that my wife and I were on, these were the best positioned record stores, the most convenient to go to. We were able to check out a lot of records without dedicating our full vacation to record shopping. And so if that's the trip that you're on, maybe check out some of these record stores. They're quite convenient, easy to get to, and quite rewarding when you find the records that you've been looking for quite some time, or just the records that will remind you of your vacation. And so that's it for today. If you are a usual viewer of this channel, usual follower of this channel, I've got some Grateful Dead records to share. I probably won't be until the new year, just busy around the holidays. But there's some Grateful Dead Record Store Day, Jerry Garcia stuff. There's even a Dick's Picks Volume 5 that I haven't even placed the order for yet, because I'm still working through all of these records. A lot of great music, so look forward to that. I'm going to try to get those videos filmed and uploaded soon. And if you've never seen any of my videos before and you want to stick around, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Always looking to build this small community here on YouTube. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope if you're planning a trip to Japan, it's a great one and you find all of the records that you're looking for. And if you're not planning a trip right now, maybe you can just live vicariously through all the stuff that I schlepped back with me. But that's it for today. Thanks so much. Peace.